Well, today, we are looking at a newer film today
Yeah,
that
let
has
me
a
know.
lot of flashes of some older films. We talk about the horrors of parenthood. We look at things like Rosemary's Baby. We look at The Brood.
When I watched this, I'm starting early, but I've had a lot of we need to talk about Kevin in this.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I didn't think about it at the time, but yeah, that's a good connection.
yeah.
Today we are talking about another Nomi Merlant film. We talked about Portrait of a Lady on Fire. We talked about Tar,
It's hard, yeah.
and now we're visiting with Baby Ruby. Welcome back to the show, everyone. I'm one of your hosts, Kyle Goethe from GoatFilmReviews.com.
Hi, I'm Nick from the St. Paul Filmcast. Thanks for finding us. Thanks for watching. And for our loyal fans, thank you for continuing to support the show. You can follow the show on Twitter and on Instagram. Yep, we do have a Patreon. Check that out for some great deals to tell us what movies we can review in the future. We also have some great content on Patreon as well, just for exclusively for Patreon members.
Oh, and that stuff I should point out. That stuff is all exclusively on Patreon right now. There's no links to a private YouTube. That stuff is all uploaded right to Patreon. We've got the Road to De Palma on there. We have our picks episode where we give you our favorite films, and we are starting up again with doing early access for some of our newer episodes. Will be uploaded to Patreon first. So if you want to get those episodes before anybody else, that's a great way to do so.
Yeah. And both Kyle and I are members of the Minnesota Film Critics Alliance. Check out that webpage for critics reviews as well as ours. Today we're talking about a relatively new movie for us, Baby Ruby.
A popular blogger and influencer is slowly starting to unravel after the birth of her baby, Ruby. Is she dreaming everything up, or is there actually something wrong with the child?
So this is written and directed by her first time full feature film, Bess Wald.
That's one, yeah.
She got her career started in theater and stage. She's well known for doing the on Broadway Grand Horizons. I haven't yet to see that play. It's based on an old couple decided to get divorced and their family kind of coming in and what's going on. I haven't yet to see it, but it stars the patriarch is James Cromwell, and then in the play Jane Alexander. I would love to see them interacting too.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
Anything with Jimmy Cromwell is a win in my book.
Yeah, so she started with theater, and when getting this movie is kind of like this, how you do good in stage. Well, let's see how you do on film as well.
Yeah.
And I think she written this one too.
Yep,
Right?
written and directed, first time out there. I mean,
Right.
she'd done acting before, she'd done theater before, and this was kind of like, and again, like when you're going to make the transition to film, lower budget works, and sticking
Names.
with some genre works. Yeah, and sticking with names you maybe like aren't big money names, but Kit
recognizable.
Harington, showing up, of course, from Game of Thrones, doing the Jon Snow series, but like we haven't seen a lot of him outside of that world. With the exception of a small role in Eternals, he did voice work in 2 of the How to Train Your Dragon films.
Pompeii
but like,
movie, right?
Yeah, and Pompeii as well, which is a movie.
That's a movie made, yeah. So and then you round out with a lot of other supporting people like Jane Atkinson. We know if you're a Criminal Minds fan like me, we know where she's from.
I love her on 24, and I didn't realize that
24,
she's the
she's on there.
adoptive mother in Free Willy.
Right.
So
So she's going to round a little saltiness too.
Yeah.
There's a little more friction to this. And then you have Reed Birney, who we know from The Menu.
yeah, he was just, I couldn't place him during the whole movie. I'm like, God, I know him from
the
somewhere.
doctor in this movie.
Yeah, and I had to reach out and actually look him up online. He also appeared in The Hunt, but not The Hunt that we covered on the show a couple weeks back. The Hunt from 2020 that everybody was way too political about.
Yeah, The Hunt, right. And so you have very small knit cast. You got to pepper in coming up some extras
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, I recognize Meredith Hagner, but not, like, I couldn't, like, pull where I'd seen her from. I had to look it up after the fact, but...
So it's a very much a psychological thriller, something that I really enjoy. If you like Smile, you might like this movie. It plays on the mentality of, am I going crazy or the world's going crazy? And I like that kind of feel. I do like psychological thrillers, even if there is at the ending, the ending is not always what you want it to be. Or
Yeah.
maybe it is just like Smile is or something like that. But if you like psychological, play with your mind, you might like this movie. If not, it might irritate you a little bit.
Yeah, it's got that element of Boy Who Cried Wolf as it tends to build, where it's like, are we actually getting a wolf or are we not getting a wolf? And that's kind of something that will decide, I think, a lot of people, is your interpretation of the film's conclusion. And also just the similarities that the film has with other movies that have come out recently. And is it more successful? Is it less successful? That's kind of that discussion piece.
Yeah. Also, cinematography by Juan Pablo Ramirez. Now, be careful. I looked him up. I want to see this movie, No Man's Land. It's very fascinating. I would like to see. It's a lot of good characters. I want to see. I haven't yet to see this movie, but if you look at it, it's got a great cast to it. It's got great production to it. But also, he did the document. He filmed the documentary Road to Roma with Curion. So he was. That's how he got doing cinematography. If you work with him,
it's not a bad way.
Making a documentary on my, how cool that you made a documentary about how you made this movie.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do it.
It's always funny to me to see people that make a documentary about someone else's movie and then actually make it somewhere else.
But you make a documentary about your own movie. Yeah. That's hilarious. Yeah. But I'm interested if anybody's ever seen this No Man's Land, and then Juan Pablo Ramirez, he did some cinematography for that one and the cinematography for this one. And it's a very, how would I say it? Very Seattle color palette.
But I can't tell if that was the color palette or the house. When you see the house and you're like, yeah, okay, yeah. You kind of place it based on those elements. Or a famous blogger and influencer that can afford that house and that kind of lifestyle, and you're like, yeah, must be Seattle.
So at the beginning of the movie, you understand she's a blogger, influencer. She makes these recipes, cooking videos, and all that stuff that everybody kind of attracts. And obviously, Kit is kind of like this butcher.
An artisanal butcher, as he's described at one point, which I think is funny.
Yeah. And so they have very bizarre occupations. Obviously, they're very successful. So you think very successful, natural step is we're going to have a kid and just be fine.
Well, not only that, like the constant idea about... Recently, we've had a lot more of a discussion on miscarriages or on failed pregnancies within the public consciousness. We're still not where we should be as a society where it's less of a stigma. There's still that definite stigma. But it was an almost ironic level that she was talking about having a baby on her blog when there is so much of this potential loss or potential problems during pregnancy that... It's almost like she's setting herself up for a really bad time on the blog if anything shouldn't go well, because then you're going to have to relive that trauma on the blog. And so I think that's kind of part of it too, is that when you put your entire life out on display, you open yourself up to that. Yeah,
that's naturally that point of view. But I think the other thing is she's such a perfectionist that she's also hosting her own baby shower.
Planning her own baby shower was
and
really something.
And she's got everything in place, everything. So it's one of those that you understand writing, when we're both writers, you understand that this is not going to go the way she wants it to go. It's not going to be smooth for her, and that's going to be peppered. It's going to not much. All it takes is one little thing go off course, and she's going to go nuts.
Yeah. It's that kind of, I think the film kind of rides the line of horror, but that uncomfortable horror, where it gives you that, like, oh, you're going to be like, you're not going to have fun with the horror. This is not fun horror. This is bother you, or
I hate to compare it with Smile, because Smile was fun, but it was uncomfortable for quite a few. Yeah,
Smile was fun when there was the smiling people, but outside of that, like there was that tense build-up that happened around it. So this is Smiles with more frowns.
So there's not a lot of production notes we can go on because it's relatively new for us, other than we just know this is Bess's full feature, and then Naomi, this is kind of a different thing because she's up front. She's kind of leading this movie.
She is. I mean, she was a co-lead, I guess, in Portrait of a Lady on Fire, but this is the first film I've seen her in that was not completely led down the prestige path. Because prestige films, they tend not to be coordinated with horror or genre kind of work. And this is more genre, but there's that twinge.
But she's in there like 90% of the movie.
Yeah, she's on display in that. Whereas like in Tar, very small character.
Yeah, I almost forgot, like,
Kate Blanchett.
Kate Blanchett's in front, and then Naomi's, and then Kit, this is really weird because somebody like Jon Snow, but then he comes in not so much as well. Yeah, maybe 20%.
This is kind of what he's been doing in film, though. Okay. He was in Silent Hill 2, where he was very much a not main character, kind of just the boyfriend, I believe, in that film. And then he's in Eternals, but he's like not a member of the Eternals. And in How to Train Your Dragon, he's not physically there, so it's like you don't put your mindset on him. It's just kind of like he's not taking leading roles. And maybe part of that is because he's already got his next TV show, propped up, so he's got something to do.
But now it makes sense. If he's got something already in the
because he's doing that Jon Snow spinoff now. that's been in production.
I
So I feel
forgot
like
about
maybe
that. Yeah,
because of that, he's allowing himself these smaller
That's
roles.
been so long, I forgot about that. It's been in production.
Well, there's eight spinoffs of that damn show. They're in production, so.
And they got the House of Target, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
but there should be noted as well. There's music by Eric Friedlander, who did the score for Thoroughbreds. Now, Thoroughbreds is not a film that worked 100% for me, but the score is something that has stayed
a lot of
with
critics
me.
put it on their
Yeah,
top. Yeah.
And I remember the score. I remember the feeling that the music gave me in that film, and I almost wonder if I could have picked out that score and elements of it in this film, because it does kind of have that same level of discomfort, unusual circumstances kind of stuff that Eric is known for. So, yeah, you can definitely see that as well. And Jin Lee, who did the editing for this film, also edited what I think is one of the more underrated horror films in recent years, which was Ma, which was a very weird frickin' movie with Octavia Spencer in the lead. And it's kind of got that same kind of, it's genre, but it's also other stuff. And that's kind of how this film is too.
All right, so it's up next is our review of Baby Ruby. So since it's a relatively new movie, this is the first time reacting to it.
Yeah. First time hearing of it.
First time hearing about it. I think it's in theaters if you're in a larger market area like big cities like New York and Chicago and LA, but it's not available. It's strictly for streaming services available for us. I definitely like to take it to the critic right now. Kyle, what did you think of Baby Ruby?
I thought it was okay.
That's what I'm going to give to it.
I'm hearing a lot of I loved this movie, and I'm hearing a lot of I hated this movie from other people online. And I understand both reactions. I thought it was okay. I see what they're going for. I see what Bess wants to do with the film. But I feel like when you give your film the attitude of horror, and then you don't really go there, that does kind of mess with me a little bit too. Yeah, Master did as well, where it's like you were a few steps off, and you really could have recovered from it. But it also felt like a movie that, while well made, didn't really stand out from the pack. Because if I'm going to ask you right now, if you're given the opportunity to watch a movie about the horrors of parenthood, you're probably going to watch Rosemary's Baby or The Brood, or you're going to, or any number of we need to talk about Kevin. There's a number of other films that I feel like I would go to instead, and your movie needs to have something to stand out, and I don't know that it does.
Something, and frustrated is the word for me. You had so many elements that you could have played upon, because I think Bess is trying to. The point of view for Bess was, let's talk about the horrific things that seem supposed to be natural with parenting and being a mother for the first time. These can be horrific things, and we're just regarded as just that's part of business, that's part of life.
Yeah.
Well, you have a baby and you can't stop bleeding, for God's sakes, and then this horrific things that seem to play that just that's whatever, but also can be part of this horror movie too.
Yeah.
Not to mention that you have these being a mother, and you have to play the dangers to the point that you go crazy yourself.
Yeah, it is an interesting way of comparing postpartum depression, and just kind of the difficulty that comes with first-time parents, or just really the first 2 or 3 years of any child's life. I've got a couple friends now who are on their second kid. That is now under 2. The first kid was one of those things where we're not sleeping. That's just what's happening. We're not living our lives. We're sleeping when we can, but really we're butlers and maids to this child because it can't survive on its own. And that takes a heavy toll on people. And I think especially women, because you had to carry this thing for 9 months. And we see that in the case with Kit Harington, is that Spencer is able to drink beer, but she can't. Because she's pregnant.
Oh, come on, please, I want a little
She just wants one sip. She wants one moment of not having that.
Yep.
We see that, the women carry the child for 9 months. And then after that, they can't really, men can feed out of the jar, but they can't really feed from themselves. And there's that, there's that kind of eating away at you element of the placenta even too, of just, there's all these elements to the film. I see what she's going for, but it just never really related to.
Yeah, I think the whole
plot.
projection of, I want to show ordinary events that could perception-wise seem like a horror movie.
Yes.
And you can actually lose your mind. But it's not really horrific unless you can channel it. I don't understand the ending of this, the duality, mirror image thing.
Yeah. Let's give a spoiler alert real quick. If you want to know the ending, stay behind with us. If you've not seen the film and you don't want to, now may be a good time to pause and go run the film on Google and then come back and see the rest of it.
I don't want to give very much, but I don't like the ending of this movie. And I think that's the whole point. If you do in a psychological point of view, where am I crazy or the world's crazy, like they did in Smile or something like that, you need something of a visual exaggeration. This is not real world, This is not a reality show. This is a movie. This is a fictionalized movie. You need something of this. And I think they went to the less danger side, the safer point of view.
This goes back to one of my cardinal sins of genre storytelling with this, and that is I just hate movies that give you the perception that it was all in your head. I don't care for that as a story element. I think it's a cop out, because the reason why we make these films is as parallels to real life problems. Yeah. So if you're going to make the parallel that having a child can be awful for your mental well-being, and that we need to accept that and we need to learn from that, we need to be better, then you need to do something in the narrative that allows that. You need to tell the story that fits your world. And I feel like that's a cop-out ending for me.
Yeah, and I think that's the weakest point. I understand. Editing, superb. They did the very much of like Girl Interrupted, where the cut is, oh, wait a minute, I'm in my car. Yeah. Where these cuts were, oh, I'm back in the insane asylum.
And messing with, when she like wakes up and she's in the car and she's not sure if she went to hang out with her friends or if she fell asleep at the wheel. That reminded me of Smile, because there was a lot of moments in Smile where like she'd see someone smiling and then wake up in her car and be like, wait, was I actually in there?
And did a fantastic with Girl Interrupted, where Winona Ryder is telling, I'm not crazy, I don't need to be in here. But then you get these edit cuts that like, wait a minute, I thought I was,
Yeah, and wasn't there a film, Braid? Braid had something similar to it as well, where like the characters were constantly waking up in other areas of their life or other areas of the house, and like not being able to have the perception what is reality and what is not.
And I think they want you, I think Best wanted to do, which is merge that cutting, almost like incorporate dreams, where maybe the dream is reality, maybe mess with the audience, maybe this reality and everything, but just come out clear. And I think it's too clear.
Yeah.
It had to be a little bit more messy for me.
It's something where I feel like you could have found more, because the film is so symbolic and thematic, you could have found better symbols and better themes in your actual physical narrative that could have personified and embodied those elements. I get what she's going for, and that's why I'm saying the film is okay, because I do think there will be some things in this that will work for a lot of people.
I think the strongest suit is when the whole breakups, the editing was the best, the strong suit.
Oh, yeah.
I think the performance is all right, but I think because nothing stands out. Nothing goes above and beyond. Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
you could critique
interesting that
Tar, but Cate Blanchett has those scenes that goes way overboard.
Well, and I think Tar, for as much as I don't love the movie Tar, I think Cate Blanchett elevates the material to a very high point where I can see why people love Tar. With this film, I think there's a lot of good and well-made stuff in it, and I think the irony is the fact that Bess is coming from a place as a playwright where I think she's doing a better job directing the film than she is writing the narrative. I just think there's a lot that it doesn't get lost in translation, but it gets lost in minutia, and it really doesn't.
And I completely understand what she was going for.
Yeah, totally do. That's it's admirable. But
and I like the best point of the movie is when she has thinks she has everything straightened out in life, and she wakes up and the house is disarray.
Yeah.
For being a perfectionist, and then she's like absolutely doesn't know what the heck's going on.
It was my favorite. It's very similar to me actually. Yeah, my favorite part was being able to compare the opening credits where she's cutting the felt and she's making her own like party, and they had that first cut when Spencer, Kit Harington, is coming down the stairs with the baby, and he like almost trips over something on a staircase step, and it's like that would not have happened in the pre-birth life of them, watching that kind of like. And it's an understandable, it's a relatable things. I wonder if my friends who have kids would view this film and say, loved it. Because I do think that it's kind of like an I see you thing. It's just, I don't care for the cop-outs. I never care for these kind of cop-outs.
And in the ending, I would like a little more better ending to this.
Yeah, because even I criticize movies like The Babadook, but at least The Babadook does a lot of similar things, although it's about a full like child instead of an infant. But The Babadook deals with the pressures of parenting, but it also allows itself the theme and the symbolism to pervade the ending of the film. It goes all the way through to the end. And so like in that, we understand exactly what's going on in The Babadook all the way through. This film didn't do that. It's almost like we decided, well, we like horror until we don't like horror.
Yeah.
And
then for horror fans, they'll get upset with that.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like horror fans will consume your product. We will watch any horror that there is. It's just you lost me at the end there, and that's okay. It's a well-made movie that just didn't fully seal the deal for me.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Have you seen Baby Ruby?
Yeah. Let us know down in the comments section below your thoughts on the film. It premiered at TIFF last September, so it's been circulating and moving around for a while, but it's currently in some theaters and let us know if you got a chance to catch it. Thank you guys for joining us. Make sure while you're down there commenting on the film that you like and subscribe, because there are 2 free things you can do that help support the channel, and you never miss new episodes of the show as they drop. Thank you for joining us once again. You can find all my film reviews over at goatfilmreviews.com.
You can find my show, the St. Paul Filmcast, anywhere to find podcasts. And please, for the love of God, don't do an exposition dump at your ending.